Hi, good morning. I'm Bruce Barton from Maxwell Air Force Base. Mike Hagan's asked me to talk to you just a little bit about some of the tools, the IT tools that are available to you as a Force Development Flight Chief. So we'll get into that real quickly. All right, here's some of them. AFMS, Air Force Automated Education Management System. And I'll get into that in just a minute, like I said, for all of them. SIDSAR, Career Development and Student Administration Record. The Dante's Portal. AFOQT results page. I didn't actually save a slide for that, but I go out there when an individual tests for AFOQT, and that's where you can get the results at. Then there's ABSS, the Automated Business Service System. CRIS, the Commander's Resource Integration System. The Business Objects comes out of DCPDS. CATNIP, or DTS, excuse me, Defense Travel System. CATNIP, the Civilian Automated Training Input Program. And then, of course, EDCA, Education and Training Course Announcement. We'll begin with AFMS. AFMS is the universal resource for information dealing with the education system. Here at Maxwell Air Force Base, I'm responsible for the government inherent piece for taking back reimbursements when an individual has an issue with either failing a class or withdrawing or any other reason. So I have to be familiar with how to go about doing that transaction of that business. As we get towards the centralization of TA, this responsibility will fall off of even myself and all of everybody in the Air Force. But until centralization takes place, it's still very good to understand. I also go out here, occasionally my leadership will ask me, hey, how are we doing execution-wise with tuition assistance in Maxwell Air Force Base? And it's a good resource to go out to be able to do that. We also have to file our annual reports in AFMS as well. So it's a tool that all Force Development Flight Chiefs should at least understand how to use. SIDSAR, there's the Career Development and Student Administration Record. This is where I go out, again, I get queried from a myriad of commanders around the base on the status of some of their people in their career development courses. This is the system that you can use to go out and figure out exactly where an individual might stand in their training. Some people, they may be using it for promotion information, EPR, OPR data, so this is a good tool for any flight chief to at least be able to navigate through. You will not use it that often. I don't use it that often, but it's still, I like having it in my favorites, and I do refer to it from time to time. Dante's TCO here, because I have a contracted out education center, I am the Dante's TCO here, and we are not non-stocking here because we have National Test Center. One of the things that was revealed to a lot of us when we received information from the Air Force education person was that some of our National Test Center tests, the TCOs were testing military people more than once for the same test. And we all know that that policy changed a couple of years ago, whereas you only get one free test. After that, each individual that wants to retest for our CLEP or Dante's has to pay for that. And this is one of the tools that we use to be able to go out and see if in fact somebody has taken that test. It's also just good for the DEPH handbook, which is useful when you're looking for testing issues that may come up. ABSS here at Maxwell, I'm required to do my own 4009s for my GPC program, and also I have to do the Form 9s. Last year we opened up a new library, and that resulted in me having to do quite a few Form 9s, and I'm sure some of you will have to do that as well. It's a good tool to learn, to see how it operates. It's one of those systems that you can't get yourself. You're going to have to go to somebody in your FM shop that's going to authorize you access to this as well. But like I said, it's a good tool for Form 9s. It's something that I use for, like I said, my GPCs to load my new monies on my 4009 so that I can do our civilian training budget, our education budget, and our ALS budget. So I think it's something that's very useful for any flight chief to have. Chris, this is how we track our funds, the Commander's Resource Integration System. And I have actually built queries for each one of my areas in FSD so that I can go out and see the execution of funds. Although I pretty much know most days, I know how we're doing execution-wise. It's still good to check from time to time because DFAS makes mistakes, sometimes puts something on my account that shouldn't be there so that I can deal with my FM to get that corrected. I just think it's an important tool for any flight chief to have, to understand how to get that information so that you're well informed about your budget statuses. Business objects, this has been extremely helpful. This pulls directly out of DCPDS, which is very helpful nowadays with the NEO training for civilians, as well as the real emphasis behind the supervisory training that is going on right now. I can pull products out of this, and some people may say, well, that's what I have a civilian training manager for. Yes, you may be lucky enough to have one, you may not, or there may be an interim time when you don't have one. So I always find it useful to be able to go out here to answer any questions that could come up in this area as well. So it's one of the ones that I requested access to, and it took me a little while to learn it because, again, this is one that is not very intuitive. You have to figure out how to do it. It does give you some the products that were developed, and you can check the block and go directly to those products. But there are times when you want something specific, and that's when you actually have to learn how to create your own products and business objects. But again, I find this very useful as a force development flight chief. DTS is something for all of us. Some of you may be an approving official. I happen to be, and I've become very familiar with DTS. With a new emphasis and the change to TTS, the TDY to school system, whereas formal training, normally you'd receive, if you were going to a course, you'd receive your orders from AFPC. That's no longer true in a lot of instances. Nowadays they receive an information of how to go out and create their orders or authorization in DTS. This is a good way to track it, because one of the things that I do here at Maxwell is I'm the approved official for all TTS courses that occur. So it's important for me to understand how to do DTS, and I'd be willing to say that it's probably important for any force development flight chief to understand how to navigate through DTS. You can also check the travel budgets for any funding line that's out there as well, which I find very helpful. CATNIP, the Civilian Automated Training Input Program. This is another one of those tools that you have a civilian training manager. If you have one, this is what they would be using. The data call for civilian training comes out between March and May of any given year. It just depends on when the PIM at the Pentagon sends it out and is ready to receive this information. And that's when we data collect from all the units at the base to get their civilian training requirements for the next year. And then from this is where we develop our annual installation training plan that is forwarded to the wing commander or your installation commander for their approval prior to the execution here. You're also required to send up the actual execution plan, and from your annual installation training plan that has all your information out of CATNIP is one of the means by which I create that as well at the end of every year. Because what I do is I have a combined plan. I have the AITP for the forecasted year ahead, and also the execution plan for the last year is when I send it up to the wing commander, if I'm prepared, in fact, to send both at the same time, which we endeavor to do. So I find CATNIP very useful when I develop those two plans. ETCA is the Education and Training Course Announcement. Any formal training TDY that's coming up, the questions can be answered in ETCA. And there's always a myriad of questions that come up for this. Where do I need to be? What uniform do I need to be in? What do I need to have completed prior to this TDY? And all those questions can be answered in ETCA. Like I had mentioned before, this is not an intuitive type program, but it is very useful. Once you actually navigate it and you figure out the way it works, it's relatively easy. But it will take you a few times to be fully confident in your ability to navigate through ETCA. So, but again, I find this is a very useful tool as a force development flight chief. Sometimes it could be just that I'm curious. And maybe you are not as curious as I am about these, so some of you may not need these, but again, I find this very useful. That's why we wanted to just give you an idea of some of the tools that are available to you as a flight chief, if in fact you want to use them. These are the URLs for these systems. I didn't highlight CRIS because there really is no URL for CRIS. That has to be loaded by one of the administrators at your base, but the rest of them, you normally have to call whoever it might be in AFMS. There's probably somebody appointed in your education office. CIDSAR, you just have to find who's available at your base that can provide you with this information so that you can gain the access to it. For the money ones, obviously somebody in FM for the ABSS for Chris, and also for DTS as well. So, but these are the URLs where you can get to the login pages, at least help you understand initially how to get to these systems. Well, that's it. That's it. But I will say to you, good luck to you as a Force Development Flight Chief. And although there are probably some very experienced flight chiefs out there that could be much more helpful than I will offer to you my assistance. So anytime that, if you have any questions about any of these, and one of the nice things about being at Maxwell is, if you'll look, a lot of these have Maxwell on them, and they originate here at Maxwell. So we have the czars here, and actually AFMS is developed in Alabama, right up in Millbrook, Alabama. Mike Allen is the administrator, and we have the opportunity to see him quite often. So these programs, we can get a lot of good information for you. But if you have any questions about it, my DSN's 493-8300. Give me a call, and I'll help you as much as I possibly can. Good luck to you as a flight chief.